Hi everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Relentless and Unstoppable with Doug Kenny and myself, Andy McPhee. This is a special session we're doing today. Doug and myself have known each other for probably close to 7 years now, and we are really good friends now. I was Doug's coach and mentor for probably 6 years, but we still are coaching and mentoring, but there's no client fees or anything like that. Now we're in a partnership of Relentless and Unstoppable and all our other YouTube channels. Relentless and Unstoppable was started because of Doug's transformation from the time I started coaching him to dealing with, being greatly overweight to now, losing all that weight, fitness journey, yoga, walking, hiking, biking, gym, diet through the help of some of my friends and the help of his, his mum and a bit of support from myself with training and that, because none of us are experts. We all just offer bits and pieces. But the reason for this interview today is the channel took a bit of a hiatus for about 4 weeks with not any interviews. And that's because Doug has dealt with high functioning autism all his life. And he's on medication, and he's had moments of mania, and they weren't sure whether it was the medication. It doesn't happen very often. Maybe Doug? Maybe once a year, twice a year. Sometimes it happens.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, but this time was a lot more serious. Doug didn't get over it as quickly as he normally does, and he did spend quite a bit of time in hospital, and then he went through some traumatic events in hospital, not well with himself, but also witnessing extreme violence around him in the hospital. So that didn't help with the space Doug was in, like lack of sleep for over 6 weeks. Then the doctor said you've been diagnosed with Bipolar II. Is that correct, Doug?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So Doug's, Relentless and Unstoppable. That's why we do the channel. We interview people from all around the world who are dealing with or have said, I'm going to be this. So someone who's dealing with been through mental health or, thoughts of suicide or attempted suicide, and they're pretty heavy subjects. And we've had people on who've done that and come out the other end, thank God, and they now are a stand for, sharing what they went through before and what happened after, and why they're now, attempting to inspire others if they're in that space to really seek help. And we know everything takes time. Nothing happens overnight, but you all have support. Then we have other people on here like the likes of Kit Dale, who said he's going to be a world champion martial artist, and he was twice in jiu-jitsu. We have Richard Norton, who's an incredible martial artist, done so many films with Jackie Chan and Chuck Norris, bodyguarded the likes of the Rolling Stones and ABBA. We have Sam Greco, who still to this day trains fighters and travels the world doing that. Sam himself was a world champion, K1 champion in the day. And Jerry Trimble, ex-world champion, kickboxer, actor, now mentoring young kids who are, troubled youth dealing with their own issues. So that's what the channel's about. But now the tables are turning back to Doug. That's why we're here. Because Doug really went through some really tough times over the last month that we thought were just going to be okay, but it wasn't. So Doug, we're going to do a couple of interviews with you. Can you just share with us sort of from the first initial episode where I think you would think, look, it'd be okay, Andy, if this happens during the year, once a year, and I'll be okay, but it actually kept going. So can you give us a little snapshot of that from when it first started, mate?
Yeah, when it first started, it was in the spring of this year. In the years leading up to 2022, I was already dealing with some manic episodes that were minor anyway. And the first thing I remember about mania was actually when I was 3 years old. I was going through some tremendous struggles at that age without being aware of it, because I was pretty young, so I didn't remember a lot. But I remember going to a preschool before my elementary school years called Mountaintop Preschool, which was just across the street from where my mom worked. And I only lasted there for 2 weeks. And I remember being physically restrained by staff members, being held by my arms and legs, and I was fighting. And I remember getting my face crunched against one of the cubbies, followed by fluid coming out my nose and a salty taste, which was my blood. And I didn't come back to the preschool after that. And I was diagnosed at a young age along with autism and Asperger's. I was also diagnosed with unspecified mood disorder, which was just recently re-diagnosed as bipolar II. And what ended up happening was this year it started to get a little severe, the mania. And I remember doing a whole lot with RNU and doing a lot in my personal life, like with my trip to Hollywood. And then I usually get high strung in the spring anyway, but what ended up happening was I was in a car accident this year where I got hit by a car while I was riding my bike, and I had a closed head injury, and I remember being given a lot of medical appointments for it, along with other medical appointments that I had at the same time, and it got very.
And Doug, may I just jump in? You still, even though you're very lucky with that car accident, but I think someone mentioned to me, your mum said that there is probably a little bit of trauma from hitting your head on the ground. Is that what they came up with?
That's part of it, yes. There was trauma because, it wasn't a good experience to get hit. And I didn't actually hit my head on the ground, but we believe I suffered a concussion when I hit the ground. And if not for my bike, if not for my biking helmet and my pads, I would have been injured.
Yeah, and look, thank goodness you weren't, and that took a little bit out of you for a while as well. I just wanted to jump in. The reason I do want to jump in is you said, I do a bit of work on Relentless. That is so untrue. You do a ton of work behind the scenes. I couldn't do what you do, Doug. I just couldn't. Like Doug, behind the scenes creates that. We collaborate on logos. So I suggested, Doug, look, let's come up with a new logo, and I came up with an idea about that, and then Doug came up with the logo. Doug does all the logos for the hats and the T-shirts, which we sell and obviously cover our costs because, we don't get paid, obviously, but there's cost in doing this. So once our costs are covered and Doug's time, we are donating money to different charities. But again, that was all on hiatus. But Doug does just so much work behind the scenes. He edits, he spends hours and hours editing. He's posting all our YouTube channels, which we have a lot on, and Doug will share them at the end of this. He'll put them in a link. So he's relentless, and we have to pull him back all the time as a coach, and with his mother's help too. We have to say, Doug, got to slow down because he loves doing what he's doing. So I just want to share with you that this young man is just absolutely relentless and unstoppable. And he made very light of, I do a bit of work. That's more than that. And he's an author. And he's already written a book about his journey and our journey of the diet. We're doing another one on bullying. So he's an incredible young man. And to be dealing with now being diagnosed with that, being in hospital twice and lacking sleep for over a week, that's why he's here to continue sharing his story. So sorry to interrupt, but I just want viewers to know just how much work you do, Doug. You really do.
Appreciate it, man. And that wasn't the only traumatic thing I experienced this year. There was other traumas as well. When the first mania got out of control, I remember going to the ER for the first time. It was the urgent care psychiatric ER, and so I had to sleep and interact with people that were just really dealing with their own personal struggles. I was in there for only a 24-hour period the first time, and then a couple weeks ago I got evaluated again when the bipolar symptoms got more severe. And during this stay, it was the longest stay of my life. I was there for almost 3 days total, and I remember on the first night I'm still a little choked up about it, but I witnessed a near fatal stabbing of someone. So yeah, that was not a good experience to witness. I remember I was trying to go to sleep on the very first night, and next thing I remember, at 1 a.m, I woke up to hearing yelling and screaming of someone saying, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife." And then I witnessed shrieking and yelling, and it was a brawl was breaking out, and I leapt out of my chair when I realized what was going on and ran to the other side of the room. And eventually it was taken under control, but there were some paramedics there that had to lead a few people away in stretches. And I remember waking up the next morning after going back to sleep. And on this arm right here, there was a streak of blood on me. It was not my blood. It was the blood of one of the victims. It was really traumatic and unbelievable. It was that bad. I hope the guy's doing okay.
And so that's not a pleasant thing to see. And, you know, obviously when you're having, you know, issues like you were dealing with, Doug, that's where you usually end up in those type of hospitals, in those wards. And it's pretty distressing to see what some people are actually going through, correct?
It's very stressing. Like, it's just, it's unbelievable. I've learned a lot more on mental health than I ever knew before during those stays.